Hello everybody and welcome back to the Galactic Armory. Today I'm going to be reviewing this big guy here, the Creality K1 Max. Now this is a printer that I had high hopes for originally because it's the next generation printer, but it also has a large build volume coming in at 300 by 300 millimeters. Now we've been using the Bambu Labs X1 Carbon, which is what a lot of people compare this printer to. We love our Bambus. We have 3 of them now, but they all have one shortcoming, and that is the build volume. Theirs is only about 256 cubed, whereas this one has the 300 cubed. And it's a pretty small difference, but it's a huge difference when trying to print full helmets like this guy. And so I bought this printer with my own money because I wanted to test it out for replacing all of our old generation printers. Those are Creality brand as well, the CR10 V2s. They have served us very, very well for the past like 3 years. But there's some old workhorses and it's time for them to rest. And so I was looking to replace them all with the next generation printer, one that has the speed of a K1 Max or K1 or the Bambu Labs X1, but having that extra build volume is super helpful and super handy, so we don't have to split up all the files into smaller pieces. To save you guys the suspense, I did not have a great time with this printer. I know some other channels have had good times with the K1 Max. I saw Frankly Built had a pretty good review of it actually, but I did not have the same experience that he did. I don't know if we just got different printers or if he fiddled around with his more often, but I'm just going to tell you my experience with the K1 Max and with Creality customer support. First print I got off the printer, a little benchy of course, and the benchy came out pretty good. No stringing, no real issues. Printed super fast, could be expected for a printer this generation, and I had, good expectations. It printed it pretty well. I don't recall the layer height it was set to. It was one of the preloaded ones, and that guy was done in some Xialtech filament. Now the Xialtech PLA is what I use primarily in the print farm now, so I wanted to see how well it acted on this next generation printer. With the successful benchy, I wanted to go straight into a large format print, and so here we have the Recon helmet from Halo. So since these printers are going to be printing full-sized helmets, I wanted to jump it straight into the fire with this Recon helmet. Now this is a big print. I believe it took around 30 hours when it was fully sliced on this printer. And the first version did not go well, or it was going well for about 95% of the print. And in the last 5%, maybe even the last 3%, we got a partial nozzle clog, which just fully separated this top part off. And if this were a print in our workshop, this would be going in the recycling, because you can fix it, but it'll never be as good as a full, complete one-shot print. So that was very disappointing right out of the gate, having a print fail from a nozzle clog, of all things, or at least a partial one, in the last 5%. My spirits were very quickly dashed, and I was already not having a good time with this printer. Now I wanted to try a smaller print with the same filament just to see if I could get something off. And so I printed the little visor. And while the exterior is fine, the interior, or the parts where the supports touch the print, it is rough, guys. I don't know if that comes up, but it is a mess. I don't know how else to describe it. There are lots of little parts of the support that just didn't want to come off the print. Most of it snapped off fine, but it left behind this very jagged and rough surface. Very ugly, and as a prop maker myself, very hard to clean up and smooth out and get it ready for painting, which is what, most people do with these prints. So I thought the problem might have been the Xialtech PLA. It is an older generation PLA. Now they make new styles of PLA called, in Creality's case, Hyper PLA. And so I wanted to try that out since that Hyper PLA is meant for high-speed printers. Don't ask me what is different about it, I don't have a clue. But I bought some of their Hyper PLA in hopes that we would get better prints off of it. I did manage to get one good print off of the Hyper PLA. This is like the little forehead detail. It printed fine. It still has some of the roughness around where the supports touch the print. I believe, yes, I printed it like so. And so there were some supports here. The print itself is fine. It's very sturdy, very smooth wherever the supports didn't touch. And so having got this little piece off, I wanted to again try the full-size print of the main body of the helmet. And oh, there's the other guy. I got 2 good prints off. And so I tried the full body helmet again. The same part that failed at 95%. This one failed for a different reason. It got just a random error message out of nowhere, completely stopping the print I believe it was something about unexpected heating, which totally sucks. I know Frankly Built mentioned an error like that in his video. I believe we got the same one. I hope they're able to fix it with the firmware issue, but it was extremely disappointing to have another print just fail, you know, out of the blue. I didn't even take the supports off this print, so I don't know how well the supports interacted with the main body of the print. Like, this front part though is pretty nice. It's very smooth, but my concern being where the support actually touches the print, because that was pretty rough on this guy. I didn't want to write this printer off right away. I wanted to try it again. I didn't do anything after that unexpected heating error message. I just cleaned off the build plate, started this guy. Now this was the first successful print we got off of the new Hyper PLA print. And I'll say, like, this guy, wherever the support does not touch the print, is very nice. I believe it was printed at a 0.16 layer height, because that's what we typically print at on our Bambu machines. And I'll say the finish is comparable, except where the supports touch the print. This could be a setting that I am missing, but I changed up the support density because I figured maybe it was too dense and it was connecting to the print too much. Changed some other support settings, but just could not find a way to get rid of this ugly leftover surface from where the supports touch the print. As a prop maker, I would not want to finish this helmet because this texture, it's so rough, it's gonna take a lot more sanding. I'd probably have to hit it with a file. It's that rough and coarse and definitely irritating. And it would take me probably another half hour to get the little blue snips and just try and snip off all of this little excess leftover material. And so at that point, I was already decided that I was not happy with the printer. I could not find a way to get better prints off of it. And this is a very complex model. I'm gonna keep referring to Frankly Built review because the helmets that he got off the printer were just fabulous. I don't think they had as complex shapes as this Recon helmet. It has a lot of overhangs, ridges, and a lot of areas that need support, whereas his looked, you know, pretty dome shaped, pretty smooth. It had a texture surface to it, but overall pretty smooth and geometrically at least straightforward. But this guy, I did not have a good time with it. Moving on to the software aspect of it, because the software was another thing that kind of annoyed me throughout this whole trial and tribulation of printing a single helmet even. And I didn't even print all the pieces yet. The software is not here to compare the K1 to the Bambu X1, but I do like the Bambu software and Slicer a lot better. I found this printer constantly disconnecting from the network, whereas with the Bambus, I don't have any problem with that. So I had to like reconnect the printer every time I wanted to send a new file to it. Very exhausting. The one good thing I'll say about the software is that it does seem to have better print farm support. So you'll have a page where you just have all of your printers listed and you can check the progress of them all at once. I think that's a good feature to have, especially for someone like me that has a whole print farm. Having like 20 or 30 of these that I could check the status on all of them at once, that's a good feature, and I wish Bambu would have something similar to that. You can check them individually, but not all at once. So, after having all of this experience with the first print, the first helmet that I wanted to make, I decided that I wanted to return this printer. I just was not happy with it. I wasn't happy with the support. And I think I'm gonna look elsewhere for a printer to replace all of my aging CR10 V2s. I know Frankly Built really enjoyed this printer. He had some critical things to say about the K1, like the regular smaller version. I don't know why he had a better time with the K1 Max, but I'm gonna look elsewhere for a larger sized, faster printer. I'm hoping, we all here really at the Galactic Armory are hoping and praying that Bambu releases a larger build volume X1 or a new model or something like that. We know they've teased, or at least have filed patents, I think, for the names of 2 new printer models. So we're very hopeful that Bambu releases something a bit larger, maybe comparable to this size. Our CR10 V2s are 300 by 300 by 400, so even bigger than this print volume, but you don't really use the Z-axis height limit too much. But I think 300 by 300 is definitely the sweet spot if you're printing things for cosplay. Back to my overall experience with the printer, I didn't like it, so I wanted to return it. And so I reached out to Creality customer support, and that was fun. I reached out to them, said I just was not happy with the printer and would like to return it. They responded with, can you please explain the problems that you're having and maybe they could help fix them, which, okay, fine. I'm sure a lot of people run into the first problem with their printer and give up or try to return it. I like to think I'm not a novice at 3D printing now. I'm certainly not an expert at these machines and how they work, but I know enough to try a few different things. And when those first few things didn't work, I'm like, it's not worth it. It's not worth having this much headache on 20 or 30 more printers exactly like this one. So I was ready to return it. I told them that I wasn't interested in trying to troubleshoot the printer anymore. I just wanted to return it, and that's when Creality customer support stopped responding to my messages. I waited about a week and a half without hearing anything back from them. I followed up again saying like, hey, still trying to return this printer. And they responded with, could you send us a video of the problems that you're having? And I was like, okay. You want a video? Here's your video, Creality. This is one of the worst printer experiences that I've had. I've loved my Creality CR10 V2s in the past, but this one does not do it for me. And so I responded to them with, yeah, I'll show a video of all of my grievances with the printer. You can watch it on my YouTube channel in the printer review video. Immediately, their tone shifted and they're ready to accept my refund now. And this is before I've even published the video. Just the threat of putting out a review video on the printer was enough for them to change their minds, which I don't think is the proper approach for a customer support. And so here I am doing the review video on this printer before we pack it up and ship it back. We still want to replace all of our CR10 V2 printers with this next generation printer. If you guys haven't tried like a Bambu P1P or the new P1S, the speeds and quality of the prints are just mind-blowing. Like, we're all prop makers here at Galactic Armory and we love our Bambus so much. We love finishing anything on them because the process to smooth them out and get them ready for painting, it's probably a third of the time, maybe even a fourth of the time compared to a print from the CR10 V2s, like an older generation printer. And the speed is probably 3 to 4 times faster as well. So the speed of the print, we could probably replace all 75 CR10 V2s that we have out there with probably 20 or 30 of this new generation printer. I had high hopes that the K1 Max would be that printer. I love its build volume. It's perfect for prop making and making things that you want to wear. But we're gonna hold out for something possibly from Bambu Labs. We have 3 of their X1s. Each one has worked out of the box consistently and for months. And I know some people are gonna type in the comments that, oh, you didn't give it a fair shot, you didn't calibrate your wonky steps, or I'm like, this is a turnkey printer, which means that out of the box, it is meant to print straight away for customers. And I get it. You can definitely build your own 3D printer and fine tweak it and calibrate it to be the perfect printing machine. I've done that on dozens of CR10 V2 printers, but they were advertised as kind of a kit. You assembled the frame together, you calibrated the steps, you calibrated the flow, everything on those printers you had to do yourself. This new generation of printers is advertised as a turnkey printer. You buy it, comes in a big box, you unbox it, plug it in, feed some filament in, and you should be good to print. And so, do I feel like I could fine-tune this printer to get it to print with the quality that we've experienced with Bambu? Yes. Do I feel like it is worth my time to do so? No. Especially not on a large scale, doing this 20, 30, maybe even 40 more times. That's just my experience. I run a 3D print farm, so as a casual printer, might be different for you, but for $900, I did not have a good time with this printer. I did not have a good time with the software, the slicer program for it, and I did not have a good time with the customer support email. And so we're gonna pass on the K1 Max. We're gonna send it back, try and get a refund. This was an expensive printer and paid $900 for the privilege to be upset and be angry. This printer has driven me to drink Thank you all for watching, for listening to me rant. If you have a K1 Max or a regular K1 and you have a different experience, feel free to leave it in the comments. Again, like I said, I'm not a 3D printer pro. I've printed a whole lot. I know a couple tricks to get good prints, but that just wasn't worth my time personally to fine tune, especially on the scale that we're printing at here at the Galactic Armory. Thank you all for watching. I'll stop ranting now. I want to get this thing packed up and out of here. So I'll see you all in the next video. Hopefully it's a happier one. All my homies hate the K1 Max.